Welcome to Beyond the Numbers, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of real estate, appraisal, and everything in between. Whether you're just starting to explore the appraisal profession or measuring your career in decades, this podcast is for you. I'm Kevin Hecht, Appraisal Training and Development Manager at McKissick. And each week, I'm thrilled to bring you expert insights, thought-provoking conversations, and stories from industry leaders, innovators, and disruptors. From education and industry news to marketing tips, tax strategies, and even a few war stories, we cover the topics that matter most to appraisers and real estate professionals. Let's get started. Welcome to Beyond the Numbers, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of real estate appraisal, exploring the latest trends, innovations, and challenges shaping the industry. I'm your host, Kevin Hecht, and today we're joined by Dan Lindeman, an appraiser located in Florida and also the founder of the Appraisal Referral Network. So Dan, first of all, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for having me today.
So we always like to start with your background. How did you get into the appraisal industry? What drove you or called you, if you will, into this role?
Well, it started back in college. I went to Florida Atlantic University in Boca Raton. And basically I ran out of money and I was looking for a job. So an appraisal office used to advertise with the university. I just found a job posting, an appraisal office looking to hire somebody. I actually thought it was like an antique appraisal business, something like that. But when I took the interview, it was a real estate appraisal office. They needed somebody to answer the phones, update statuses with clients, and they hired me. And from there, I just progressed. I found it really interesting. I always knew I wanted to do something in real estate, and I never knew the function of an appraiser. So I found it really interesting. I progressed into writing up reports, doing research, and then eventually the certified appraiser said, hey, why don't you become an apprentice? And I thought it was an excellent opportunity, so I jumped on it. At that time, maybe I had like a dozen appraisers. It was long before they limited it to 4 in our state.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, lots of appraisers. And I did very well with that. A couple of years trained under them. Was actually training the other appraisers there as well. So I really, really liked appraising. And then eventually went out on my own. After I became certified, a year or two later, I went out on my own. And here I sit today, about 20 years later, with my own appraisal business, and then looking to help the industry with the referral network as well.
Awesome. So kind of focusing first on your own appraisal business. So you said, 20 years plus. What are some of the most significant changes that you've observed in the appraisal industry? And I know we only have a short period of time, so we have to kind of condense that because I know we've seen a lot of changes. But what are the most significant ones that you experienced?
I think they're all significant. It's constantly changing. It's almost like this industry. I don't know if every industry is like this, but it feels like we're changing all the time with the new regulations passing, new words you can't use, new forms coming up now, new ways to tell you how to do adjustments or how they want them done. It's constantly changing the industry. So that would be probably.
Yeah.
The answer would be it's always changing.
Yeah, that's what I
enjoy,
right?
that. Yeah, I enjoy the change because it brings new opportunity and it keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, the only constant in appraisal is change, and I think as appraisers we need to be aware of that and adaptable because, as you said, I've been in the business over 30 years, and that's to your point. We've always seen these changes and the appraisers adapt. And talking about adapting, if I could kind of take this on a different path for just a second, I know that you're the owner of Empire Appraisal Group, and I read some of your background, and I know that you've pivoted, you've changed even in the way who you do appraisals for. Can you talk a little bit about that transition and I think give hope, if you will, to appraisers who are kind of stuck in that lending appraisal world and how there are other opportunities out there?
Yeah, so I believe right now is a turning point in the industry. The writing is on the wall for appraisers if they don't diversify. There are increased waivers, especially now the past few years, rates have been high. Like the writing's on the wall for the appraiser, hey, you need to change up how you do business if you want to stay in business. And for me, that happened, over 10 years ago, where I happened to get, blacklisted by a lender. And I was like doing all lender work at that time, all of AMC work. That was just all I was doing. And I had a stay-at-home wife, 3 kids. So I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen if other lenders do this now? And it made me diversify. It actually forced my hand in diversification, which at the time I was terrified about what would happen. Eventually, nothing happened. I got reinstated by that bank, and I chose never to work for them again. But it forced me to diversify. I made my website better. I improved my social media, improved my Google, joined networking groups, and actually had to get out there and start meeting with agents, attorneys, like lots of people, in order to build up this non-lender side of my business. So now the past couple of years have been really terrible for a lot of appraisers who do lending work. And thank God that I got blacklisted like 10 years ago, because the past few years I've been steady with non-lender work. And I still do lender work. I like doing lender work. I just, it's very easy sometimes. But the writing's on the wall for appraisers. You need to diversify if you want to stay in the business, which is, what I'm thankful I did.
Yeah. So one follow-up question, kind of from that perspective, obviously you had to pivot a little bit. And I noticed looking at your website, one of the things that you're very good at as a company, you get really great reviews, right? And so one of the things I think a lot of appraisers, especially if they've primarily done lender work their whole career, we may not have built the relationships, the customer service aspect of our business. Can you talk a little bit about some of the strategies that you've used to achieve such a high positive client feedback?
So one, the reviews are very hard to get. You need to ask for them constantly because people don't like leaving reviews for whatever reason. And I actually don't even ask for reviews on like litigation work. I don't solicit reviews because I feel like they probably don't want to comment on what's going on in their life. But it's mostly from agents and past clients. But it's like a lot of listing stuff is I'll ask for a review, or like estate stuff like that. But that is very important to organically going up in the Google rankings. I don't pay for any advertising with Google, and I just constantly update that Google profile. And in addition to that, with the reviews, you're kind of organically high on the Google rating, which you get a lot of calls from people interested in, bidding you out. And one tip for appraisers is, like, a lot of people message me through my website. They'll find me on Google and then go to my website and send me an email like, hey, can you quote this job? I never, ever respond by email with a quote. I'll respond like, hey, by the way, I'll touch base with you tomorrow. Thanks for reaching out. Because when you speak to somebody on the phone, you can sell your services and you can start out high and come down low depending on what product they need. So people are really just looking for a quote, but when you talk to them on the phone and they get to know you and how you can help them, your closing rate goes up tremendously. So there's one thing: never respond to an email quote. Just always pick up your phone and call the person.
Yeah, that's a great tip. And I think a lot of appraisers, because of all the changes that have happened, right, we've stopped using the phone as much as we should. And now we just default to email. And that's a great point and a great example of how, again, connecting with people can make such a big difference for appraisers.
And it is tough I'll be honest, it was tough for me starting to network and market with people. And for appraisers just getting out there now, it is a different mindset. It's like you have to have a relationship mindset, and it can't be, just this one transaction, because this one relationship may give me, $10,000 a year in business with one agent, so it's important to develop those relationships, instead of being transaction mindset with lending work.
That's a great point. I always talk about that. And when I teach classes about how what we do is much more than just that one transaction. And I think appraisers need to remember that. So that's great.
And I'll be honest, you're going to upset people a lot. Like sometimes people aren't going to like your value, and you need to be able to handle that and not, lose your temper with that person. You just kind of need to explain, what you did and why you did it. And they may never agree with your value, but it's still your opinion. Just explain to them how you got it. That's very important, not to preserve your reputation and to not burn bridges with people.
Yeah, really great point. And I think, when we think about where we're at in the industry now and the calls for more and more information in our reports, being able to support your conclusions can really help you when you have to have that conversation with a client about an appraisal that didn't meet their expectations.
Right.
One of the things, so when you talked about agents, right, and the whole networking thing, one of the things I always talk to appraisers about is making sure we get out there and we explain what appraisers do, because I think even established agents, even experienced agents, don't always know exactly what the appraisal process is. And so I'm just kind of curious, from your experience talking to people outside of the traditional lending world, are there some common misconceptions about the appraisal process that you've noticed and that you think that we need to do a better job of discussing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The public, even the agents don't know what we do. And I know the attorneys I work with have no idea what appraisers do either. So the more you can explain, like, hey, you know what, I'm going to go, the reason I'm making a site visit to your house is to gather firsthand data about that property. I'll measure it to confirm its size. You know, I'll get some age of the updates, any improvements, any deficiencies. So that's why I make an on-site site visit. And then I'm going to research the sales in the neighborhood. And then I'm going to find maybe the most 5 similar. And then I'll make adjustments for any differences between the properties. And then I'll come up with my opinion of value. So like, you explain stuff to them so they understand it, because them looking at the report, they don't understand your report. Unless you walk them through it, they don't get it. And the public certainly doesn't get it, because I get calls all the time for like insurance stuff that I don't even do, like a home inspection. I get calls for commercial work. They think all appraisers do commercial work. So the public has no idea what appraisers do. So, and I think the industry does, or the profession, whatever you want to call it, does do a lack of educating the public on what we do.
For what it's worth, I've been married to an attorney for over 30 years, and she still doesn't know what I do as an appraiser. So totally understand the attorney.
With litigation work, sometimes I end up in court, and I was so worried the first few times I was in court. I was like studying USPAP, like highest and best use, all this stuff. Turns out they don't know anything. Unless they're in real estate and actually study the appraisals, they have no idea what you're doing. So you're the smartest person in that room regarding appraisals. And that was a load off when I realized that they don't know anything.
Yeah.
Out of appraising.
I've experienced the same thing. Well, let's kind of shift our focus here a little bit, because you founded something called the Appraisal Referral Network. And can you give our listeners a little bit of background about what it is, well, why you started it, what it is, and what you hope to accomplish?
So the Appraisal Referral Network, it's basically a platform and a website, referappraisals.com. And it's a place for real estate appraisers to exchange referrals. A lot of us some people may belong to an organization, but for the most part, lots of appraisers don't belong to one of these organizations, AI, ASA, whatever you want, NAA, whatever you want to pick. So this is kind of a place, basically, you can join for free. You can meet the peers around you. Like, you can see other appraisers around you, because that's an excellent source of, growing your businesses with other appraisers, growing as an appraiser and actually referring business between peers. And a lot of appraisers don't do that. So I wanted to create this network to, foster that. And I started it because I get tons of calls for different types of assignments that I don't do, like commercial work, stuff in counties that I don't cover. Because when you start working with attorneys, they'll ask you for an appraisal like 3 counties away or whatever, you don't cover it, and you're trying to be an excellent provider to them and a good customer service. So you say, okay, let me find somebody to help you do that. I don't cover that area. And I was doing that a lot and not getting paid for it. So I started asking appraisers around me for referral fees, because I was giving them so much work. And then it was working out well. They were paying, referral fee. And I'm like, this is a good source of business. I don't want to take on more appraisers right now and have them, driving all over the state or manage a group of appraisers. That's not what I want to do. My life is simple. I don't want to create more chaos with more appraisers. So I was like, let's introduce this to other appraisers, let them exchange business between each other and actually earn money. And, initially I was thinking like, this is a great idea for retired appraisers, because they still get calls in retirement and they can earn more. They can earn some referral income and passive income in retirement and like help the industry still, like develop relationships and still be, earn some income and help out other appraisers, their peers. So that was the whole basis and reason why I started it. And it's been very successful so far. Since June, 8-9 months ago, we got close to 1,000 members. So I feel like it's going well so far.
Very good. And you mentioned the website. So kind of walk through the process. You just go to the website, sign up. Are there other things you have to do or
I wanted to
consideration?
give away a lot for free. So you can join as a free member because I feel like appraisers get nickel and dime quite a bit. So I gave the appraisers a lot of stuff for free. They can get a free listing, access to the membership map. Use the directory however you see fit. It's got 1,000 appraisers. Search the map and you can send referrals, receive referrals just for free. Um, and then there's forums, Q&A forum that's free to appraisers, and some other things that are free as well. And then there's a paid version, which is like $27.99 a month or $269 a year. With the paid version, there's access to like little tiny lessons, like 10-minute lessons on stuff that you're going to come across in the non-lending space, like certain types of assignments, stuff to deal with clients, stuff you run into, like actionable stuff, like little tiny 10-minute lessons. We have 30 of them so far, and we're adding some all the time. Got some resources to help market to agents and attorneys, like sample emails you can send them. But the biggest part was, with a paid membership, you earn more on referrals. Like as a free member, you earn 3%, and as a paying member, you earn 12%. And the whole goal was to reward appraisers who refer out a lot of business with a higher referral rate. So, and there's some other stuff involved with that, the paid version as well, some other perks. But we're adding stuff all the time, and we're trying to be a big benefit to the industry.
That's awesome. And you talk about the benefit to the industry, especially when we're looking at something that is outside what I think most appraisers consider their niche, which is lending assignments. And so helping them along that path is awesome. Which kind of actually brings me to my next question, right? Because I think there's a lot of doom and gloom in the appraisal industry. A lot of people are thinking this is the end of the appraisal industry as we know it. And as we've already talked about, right, there's a lot of change that's going on. There's a lot of change that's going to continue to go on. So from your perspective, if you were talking to an appraiser, what advice would you give an existing appraiser on how to thrive going forward? And then what advice would you give someone who's considering entering the real estate industry?
Well, existing appraisers, like I said earlier, you have to diversify now. Like the writing is right in front of you. Like if you don't want to partake in these new forms coming out, you need to diversify if you want to stay in the business. But not only that, it's going to help you have a stable business when you diversify. So, step one would be get out there, update your website, all your social medias, then get out there and network and try and build that business. You don't need to do it overnight. It's going to take a while, but you can still, do both at the same time. And new appraisers getting into the business, I love the business. And lending work may be diminished in the future. There's still going to be a need for it, but there's going to be less appraisers probably doing it. But the non-lending side is not going anywhere. There's trillions and trillions of dollars of wealth that are going to be transferred to the next generation. That's going to spur tons of estate appraisals in the coming years. People get divorced every day. People die every day again. And, agents are always going to need appraisers' help. And so are buyers. That industry is changing as well. So there's opportunity out there. There's plenty of non-lender work for all the appraisers out there. You just need to be creative Like, I know there's some people who have like memberships with agent's office to do pre-listing appraisals for them, which is an awesome idea. They do other types of products too, maybe products for buyers. So the opportunity out there and the products we can create is only a bright future for the appraisers and new people getting in the industry. When I get those calls like, hey, can you take on a trainee? I'm like, I'm not taking a trainee now, but you should absolutely get in the industry. It's been great to me and my family, and I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I say the same thing all the time, right? It's been really great to me and my family. And I feel like I'm kind of at the point where I want to give back something to the industry. And one of the things is to make sure people understand how important what appraisers do is. And to your point about the whole buyer process changing and the need for appraisals to help buyers understand, when I make this big investment, do I really want to rely on something that a computer spit out? Would I rather not have someone go out and look at it, a professional person who understands the valuation process? So to your point, I think there's a lot of opportunities left for appraisers, but you also have to, as you pointed out, do a little bit of work. You got to do the legwork. You got to do the networking. You've got to make the phone calls. You've got to, update your website. All those things are all great things to move appraisers into the next phase of the appraisal industry. So thanks very much for that. So just as we wrap up real quick, can you remind everybody of the website for the Appraisal Referral Network?
Sure. Yeah. The Appraisal Referral Network is at referappraisals.com. And again, take a look. It's the process is there, the sign up is there, but you can feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to go over it with you, have a call with you. And it's been awesome, like networking with appraisers from around the country during this process, which has helped me tremendously. And the reception from the majority of appraisers has been really, really, really well. So I'm happy about that. So not too many naysayers out there, which is good.
There's always some in this industry, right? And I think, that's another thing. We need to get the positive out there to drown out the negative, because there's always been naysayers in this industry. There always will be, but there's so much opportunity, I think. And I also love, if you could talk just for a second, I'm sorry to kind of back up here, but you talk about networking with appraisers. So we talked about networking with the public and with potential clients. But I think one of the things that we need to do as an industry is network among ourselves better so that we understand what's going on. And so can you talk just a little bit about your experience as you build the Appraisal Referral Network, talking to other appraisers?
Yeah, so I've become friends with appraisers from around the country, just having conversations with them about it. And I'm in the South Florida market. I've got a friend up north who is not in my market, and maybe we shared what approved lenders lists we're on, and it's not really hurting my business sharing with him, like, hey, by the way, this lender is really busy. Here's a sign up if you want to sign up for that lender, or learning what they're doing, or what forms they're using, or what product they're selling in the non-lender space, or what VA they're using to help write up their reports. So it's tremendous to network with your peers to find out what they're doing in their business. It's not competition, I don't think. It just helps you grow your business. And even with my peers, like when I did this signups, everybody has a pin on a map. So you can go to the map and you can see who is around you. There's like 40 appraisers around me, like in the county that signed up and are around me. I had no idea there was that many. And I wasn't alarmed with that because I still get lots of calls. But I can see them updating like their profiles. And in fact, before we started this podcast today, I was on the phone with one appraiser. I'd never met with him. He's a certified general. He's been around a very long time. I know that from his license number. It's one of the early ones. But he does two things that I get lots of calls for: FEMA 50% and insurance appraisals. And I don't do those for condo associations. And I don't do them. So my phone's ringing. I'm helping this cert gen out by feeding in business, and then I'm just making a referral fee for it. But for all that marketing, because my phone is ringing, his may not be with those orders. So him connecting with me and vice versa is helping both of us. It's a win-win. So the benefits with connecting with other peers is I don't see any downside from that.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think as appraisers, we need to do more of that. And just to have a sounding board or someone you can ask questions to. I say this all the time in classes when we teach on Zoom, right? Because in Zoom, we have people from all over the country. Well, while I may not deal with something that you deal with in Florida, because I'm in St. Louis, right? Understanding how you handle something can give me a new approach maybe to some problem that I'm having. So I really encourage appraisers to connect with each other, share experiences, talk about problems. I mean, I think that's one of the great things about your Appraisal Referral Network is just connecting appraisers. So kudos for putting that together. I think it's another good step in the right direction within the industry.
Thank you.
So as we end today, one more time, if you would, give us the website, and then we'll wrap things up.
So the Appraisal Referral Network can be found at referappraisals.com. If anybody has any questions, you can reach out to me. It's Dan at referappraisals.com. Be happy to talk with you or email back and forth with you. Whatever you need, I'm here to help. And please, there's a lot of free resources when you sign up. You'll get a free engagement letter to use with your non-lender clients. There's 10 steps to growing a non-lender business, which just highlights some of the steps you can take today. You'll get for free as well when you sign up. So listen, I'm just trying to be a resource to the profession. So whatever way I can help, please just reach out.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Dan, thanks very much for joining us today. Really appreciate the information, the insight, and I do encourage people to check it out. So that's it for today's episode of Beyond the Numbers. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you found the discussion insightful and inspiring. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share it with your fellow appraisers. See you next time.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you all very much. Thanks for tuning in to this week's Beyond the Numbers. If you'd like to stay at the forefront of appraisal news, boost your career, or just learn more about the profession, be sure to subscribe to Beyond the Numbers with McKissick Appraisal at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for stopping by.